Your mom's diabetic. She was found unresponsive in her room by the nursing home staff, and her blood sugar was down to 40. This is a medical emergency. The nursing home called 911 and paramedics rushed her to the emergency room. 6 hours later, you find out about what happened, but not from the nursing home. The nursing home never called you. Instead, you first hear about this when the hospital admissions desk calls you asking for insurance information. If that just happened to you, I need you to understand something right away. This is not just poor communication by the nursing home. This is a violation of federal regulatory requirements. I'm David Terry. I'm a nursing home abuse and neglect attorney based in St. Louis and handling cases all over the states of Missouri and Illinois. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I can honestly tell you that I've heard hundreds of families tell me the same thing. The nursing home never called them when their loved one was having a medical emergency. They often had no idea what was wrong until they either got a call from the hospital or they showed up for a visit and they found their loved one in a distressed situation. In this video, I'm going to explain when nursing homes are legally required to call you, why they sometimes don't, what it means when they fail to notify you, and exactly what you should do about it. Let's start with the basics. When are nursing homes required to call you? Well, federal rules say that the nursing homes must call you immediately when something happens to your loved one. So why don't they? Let me show you what this regulatory requirement actually says and what immediately really means. So this rule can be found at 42 CFR, that means Code of Federal Regulations, section 483.10 G14. And this requires nursing homes to notify you immediately when certain things happen to your loved one. Not eventually, not when they get around to it, immediately. There are several events that trigger this requirement. So let's go through them one at a time. Number one, an accident involving the resident that results in injury and has the potential for requiring physician intervention. So this includes things like falls, even if they don't think that there's an injury at first. It includes things like skin tears during transfer, if a resident gets cut during a transfer, choking incidents, basically any injury that might need a doctor's attention. Now notice that this regulatory requirement says has the potential for requiring physician intervention. That's a really low bar. If there's any chance your loved one might need medical attention, they are supposed to call you immediately. Number two, a significant change in the resident's physical, mental, or psychosocial status. That is a deterioration in their health, their mental status, or their psychosocial status in either life-threatening conditions or clinical complications. This includes things like sudden confusion or a decline in residents' mental status. It includes shortness of breath or chest pain or severe pain somewhere else in their body. It includes things like when the resident becomes unresponsive or is exhibiting lethargic behavior or has some sudden weight loss, or development of pressure ulcers, what we call bed sores, or any kind of infection. Basically, any deterioration in health that could be life-threatening or cause clinical complications. And, like in our example at the beginning, diabetic emergencies. Low or high blood sugar that causes unresponsiveness, confusion, or requires hospitalization. Any of those things happen, nursing home is supposed to call you immediately. The third reason why a nursing home is to immediately call you is when there is a need to alter treatment significantly. So what does that mean? Well, this includes things like major medication changes, physician to start or stop treatment, changes due to adverse reactions, and adjustments to insulin or other critical medications. And if there's hospice discussions, those need to be discussed with the family and they need to call you immediately to discuss those. Fourth and finally, a nursing home is required to immediately call you when there is a decision to transfer or discharge the resident. So if they're going to send your loved one to the hospital, you are supposed to get a call immediately. Period. End of story. Now, here's what's important. This list is not exhaustive. These are just examples. The facility is required to notify you about anything that significantly affects your loved one's health, safety, or well-being. So if you've provided your contact information and you have a power of attorney for healthcare or you're the responsible party, they know who to call and they have no excuse. Now, let's pause here and talk about something critical, the importance of having a healthcare power of attorney. I'm not talking about just a financial power of attorney, but a healthcare power of attorney. They're two different things. A financial power of attorney gives you the authority over money and property. Now that's important, but it doesn't give you access to medical information or the right to make healthcare decisions. Healthcare power of attorney does that. Now, while every state has different laws and rules on how a power of attorney works, and by the way, you should check those with a lawyer in your specific state, generally speaking, for Missouri law, there's a specific document called a durable power of attorney for healthcare. And there's just a few requirements. It needs to be in writing, and it needs to be dated, and it needs to be signed by your loved one. It also has to be properly acknowledged, which is done by a notary. Now, there's one other key requirement, and this is critical. The person signing the power of attorney must have the capacity to understand what they're signing and what the powers that they are giving to the designated power of attorney are. I've had so many people try to get powers of attorney after their loved one has lost capacity to really understand what they're signing, and it just can't be done. It's critical that the person understand what they're signing. So don't wait. If you have a loved one in a nursing home and no power of attorney and they're still able to understand it, get it done. Because without that legal authority, facilities can use the excuse that they didn't know who to call, or more so, that they didn't have permission to share that information. And trust me, they will do it when it benefits them. Okay, so now, once you have a valid healthcare power of attorney, you need to give a copy to the nursing home. They are supposed to put that in the residence chart, and from that point forward, you are the person that they call when something happens, and they no longer have any excuse not to call you. So now let's talk about why nursing homes don't call you. To do this, let's go back to our example. Your mother's had a medical emergency and she was sent to the hospital. You'd think calling you would be the simple part, right? Pick up the phone, make the call. But for some nursing homes, simple is just never really simple. So why is that? Well, look, in 25 years of asking these questions and hundreds of depositions, here's some of the conclusions that I've reached as to why so many nursing homes fail in just the simplest of tasks, like picking up a phone and calling you. Reason number one, they're disorganized and they're overwhelmed. Most facilities are understaffed. It can get chaotic. A diabetic resident's blood sugar crashes and the aide who checked on her is scrambling to handle 10 other things. The nurse who's supposed to document it and make the call is dealing with a medication pass and 3 call lights are going off. By the time the shift ends, nobody made the call. The next shift comes in, sees a note in the chart, hopefully, assumes somebody already called, and they move on. It's incompetence, it's a system failure, and it shouldn't happen, but it does every single day. Reason 2, weekend and night shift gaps. A lot of these failures happen on the weekends or overnight. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So let's say that this event happens at 11 p.m. on a Saturday. There are fewer people on duty, and oftentimes the night shift people have never even met the family members. So rather than make that call themselves, they just write a little note for the day shift charge nurse to make the call. And then the morning shift comes in, and the charge nurse gets busy, doesn't make the call. Reason number 3, they don't have the current information. And look, sometimes this is the fault of the families. Sometimes the family members just don't provide updated contact information. Your cell phone number may have changed, or you've moved, the person listed as the emergency contact isn't available anymore, and that's really on the family. It's rare, but it happens. And it's hard to blame that on the facility. So yeah, the facility should be trying to reach somebody, and they should try as hard as they can, but it's one reason why you need to make sure that your information is current and that they have multiple ways to reach you. I always recommend giving the nursing home every means of contacting you possible. Give them your mobile phone, your home phone, your spouse's phone, your sibling's phone, your email. You get the picture. Don't give them the excuse that they didn't have updated information. So reason number 4, they're hoping that you won't find out. Sometimes facilities don't call you because they don't want you asking questions. Your mom's blood sugar crashed because they gave her insulin, but they forgot to make sure she ate dinner. Or they gave her the wrong dose of insulin. Or they didn't check her blood sugar when they were supposed to. They know that they screwed up. They know that if they call you immediately, you're going to ask, well, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Was she being monitored? Did somebody make a mistake? So they delay, they downplay, and they want to run out the clock and hope that by the time you find out, the crisis has passed and you'll just be relieved that mom's okay. When they do this, I'm telling you, it's not incompetence, it's a strategy. Reason number 5, they just don't think it's a big deal. Sometimes staff members will minimize what happened. Oh yeah, her blood sugar came back up right after we gave her some juice, so she's fine now. But you know what? Fine now doesn't change the fact that she was unresponsive an hour ago. That's a medical emergency, and you have the right to know about it immediately. Not after the fact, not if you happen to ask the right question, or not when they get around to telling you, but immediately. So, reason 6, they are worried about liability. Some facilities are so worried about lawsuits that they create a culture where bad news gets buried. They're hoping that if they bury their heads in the sand long enough, the problem will just magically go away. Sometimes staff members are afraid to report problems to their supervisor because they're concerned that they will get blamed. Administrators, well, sometimes they're afraid to notify families when something goes wrong because they think it makes the facility look bad and they might get sued. So when the nursing home culture is ignore problems and circle the wagons when something goes wrong, events like this will often be briefly mentioned in the chart, if at all, and family members are left in the dark as long as possible. Let me give you 2 real-life examples of this. Just 2 weeks ago, I received a call from a woman who told me that her father fell and broke his hip at a nursing home. This had happened about a week before she called me. Now, the facility never called her. She didn't know about any of this until the hospital called her needing her consent for her father to have surgery for his broken hip. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Her dad fell and broke his hip at the nursing home. An ambulance was called. An ambulance took her dad to the hospital. The hospital admitted her father and decided he needs surgery, and the nursing home never called her. Not when he fell, not when the ambulance came, not when he was getting admitted to the hospital. Never. And I asked her, what did the nursing home tell you about his fall? And she said, I don't know. I've called them several times and they still haven't called me back. Let me give you one more example. A few years ago, one of my favorite clients went to visit his wife in a nursing home. He visited her twice a day, every single day. It's like clockwork. But on this day, he goes into her room and she's crying. And she told him, my shoulder hurts. And he looks at her and her shoulder is obviously out of place. He insisted that the facility call an ambulance, and when she got to the hospital, the x-ray showed a graphic break in her shoulder. A break so bad that it required immediate surgery. The nursing home never called him about it, never explained to him what happened. In fact, no one there even seemed to know what happened. I requested the records, and there was absolutely nothing in her chart about what caused her injury. Nothing. Now look, I'll admit to being a bit jaded because of all the garbage that I've seen nursing homes do to people. But I believe these 2 examples show the main reason why nursing homes don't call people after their loved one has suffered an injury. They know they screwed up and they want to say and document as little information as possible for liability reasons. Here's what I want you to understand. When a nursing home fails to notify you about a diabetic emergency or a fall, injury, a hospitalization, or a significant change in condition, that failure tells you something very important. It tells you their systems are broken. It tells you that residents aren't being monitored properly. It tells you communication is failing at every level. And it tells you that they are putting themselves above the welfare of your loved ones. And it often means that there are other problems that you just haven't discovered yet. I've seen this pattern in case after case. The family finally finds out about a hospitalization. Hours or days later, they start asking questions. They request records. And that's when they discover that their loved one had other incidents that were never reported. Or they discover missed sugar checks, blood sugar checks. Or they discover medications were being given incorrectly or not given at all. That initial failure to notify that they find out about is rarely an isolated incident. It's usually a symptom of deeper neglect or a much, much larger systemic failure. Let's focus on that diabetes story I told you at the beginning of this video. About 75% of the cases that I handle involve residents with diabetes. And you know what I see over and over and over again? Facilities don't monitor blood sugar properly. Facilities give insulin, but don't ensure that the resident eats. Facilities even often ignore early warning signs of hypoglycemia, like when a resident is experiencing confusion, shakiness, sweatiness, and weakness. In most cases, a diabetic emergency doesn't just happen out of the blue. It's preventable with proper monitoring and care. But too often, that proper monitoring and that care just doesn't happen. And if your loved one is diabetic, let me tell you a few things that the nursing home should have. First of all, they should have blood sugar monitoring schedules that schedule how often and when they are to check a resident's blood sugar. They're to have meal schedules and supervision to ensure that the resident is eating and eating the right foods. They should have information that is readily available about what to do if the resident's blood sugar is too low or too high. And a facility should have regular staff training on recognizing signs of diabetic distress and what to do if that is happening to a resident. Also, a facility should have emergency protocols that everybody there knows. And if something goes wrong, if the blood sugar crashes, if a resident becomes unresponsive, if paramedics are called, or if a resident is sent to the hospital, you should be notified immediately. Not 6 hours later, not when you happen to visit, immediately. So what should you do if something happened and the nursing home didn't call you? If a nursing home did not call you when something happened to your loved one, here's exactly what you need to do. Step 1, document everything, and I mean everything. So write down when the incident happened according to the facility records, when you found out about it, how you found out about it, whether the hospital called you, whether you discovered it during a visit, something like that, who you've spoken to at the facility, what explanations they've given, and they've probably given you 3 or 4 different ones, but write them all down. Step 2, request the medical records. If you're the power of attorney, you're entitled to your loved one's medical records, even if the nursing home says you aren't. Now, I believe in requesting all records, but that may not be necessary all the time. But at an absolute minimum, request the following records: all the nursing notes from that day, the day of the event, a week or so prior to that event, and all the days following the event. If it's a diabetic issue, get every one of those blood sugar logs. Get the medication administration records, sometimes called the MARs. Get all communication logs showing when or if they attempted to contact you, all the care plans, all documents called the minimum data set report, and all physician orders. Step 3, put your complaint in writing. Send a letter or an email to the director of nursing and the administrator. You want to create a paper trail. I prefer an electronic paper trail. But either way, whether you send a letter or email, say something like this: I'm writing to document that on such and such a date, my father experienced a diabetic emergency with blood sugar dropping to 40 and became unresponsive, requiring emergency transport to the hospital. The facility didn't notify me. I only learned of this incident when the hospital called me on such and such a date and time. Under 42 CFR section 483.10G14, the facility is required to immediately notify me of significant changes in my father's physical condition, and this did not happen. I'm requesting a written explanation of why I was not notified and what steps the facility is taking to ensure that this does not happen again. Like I said, create a paper trail. If you send by email, that's a digital paper trail, and that's great. If you send it by a letter, keep a copy of the letter. Send it by certified mail or Federal Express so that you have proof that the facility received the letter. Trust me here, if they can't deny that they got it, they will deny that they got it. The truth doesn't matter. So take that excuse from them, have a paper trail proving that they received it. Step 4, report their conduct to the state. I'm a big believer in this. In Missouri, you can file a complaint with the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services by calling the Elder Abuse and Neglect Hotline. That number is 800-392-0210. Now, if you're in Illinois, you can file a complaint with the Illinois Department of Public Health by calling 1-800-252-4343. These agencies have the power to investigate and issue citations to facilities for violations. And if you're watching this from a state other than Missouri or Illinois, look up the agency in your state that is responsible for overseeing the nursing home industry there. I promise you there is one of those agencies. Step 5, talk to a lawyer. If your loved one was seriously injured or died because of inadequate care, understaffing, or ignored warning signs, you might have a legal case. Call a lawyer who handles nursing home cases regularly. Those of us who handle these cases regularly can review records, identify what was wrong, check and see if any of the regulatory rules apply, and we can help you determine whether the facility should be held accountable. Even if you're not sure that you have a case, a consultation with a lawyer can really help you understand what your options are and what evidence matters. So to wrap up, if a nursing home doesn't call you when your loved one has a diabetic emergency, gets hurt, goes to the hospital, or experiences any significant change in condition, that's not just one of those things. That's not just an oversight. That's a violation of a regulatory requirement. And it's often a warning sign of bigger problems. Problems like understaffing, poor training, disorganization, inadequate monitoring, or even a deliberate attempt to avoid accountability. Your loved one deserves better than that. And you deserve to be kept informed so that you can advocate for them and make sure that your loved one is getting the care that they need. So folks, don't stay silent. Document what happened, report it, and if necessary, call a lawyer who can help you get answers and help you hold the facility accountable. Because look, when facilities know that they can get away with hiding these problems and delaying things, they just keep doing it. But when families push back, I'm telling you, behavior changes. Now, we've talked a lot about things that nursing homes do because of incompetence, insufficient staffing, or to avoid liability. It makes sense then to be super careful about the nursing home that you place your loved one in. Now, of course, anything can happen at any nursing home. But in my experience, in my 25 years of doing this, I tend to see the same nursing homes over and over, and some nursing homes I never get calls about. So in my next video, I give you some tips about what to look for when choosing a nursing home for your loved one. And I explain what the nursing home industry does not want to tell you. So go watch that video now. I'll see you over there.